Okay, so we're building a Nikon Z8 rig for handheld video. I've already put the cage on. I picked up a used SmallRig Z8 Cage. There is a Night Eagle version or something like that. Didn't go for that. It's just the basic one. Like all SmallRig cages, it comes with this little mini tool. Pretty straightforward cage. You can access everything. You can still access battery door, memory cards. Comes with this really small screw so that it doesn't rotate. Locks it in. On the bottom, I've already put my quick release plate in here. So that's the cage. I'm gonna put it into the quick release plate. Should I put it on the right or the left? I'm gonna put it on the left. I can access my battery plate. What do we got? 1/4 inches and 1/3/8. I never know front or back for this plate. I will say this isn't my favorite tool. I think most of the cages I've used come, I actually don't know what they came with. Something a bit more robust from what I remember. Could be completely mistaken though, it's been a minute. Haven't been really shooting video, let alone video gigs, but we're starting to slowly get back into it. Oh, this isn't gonna work. We're gonna use the screwdriver. Okay, so base plate is on, and then I'm gonna put in my rods. I'm using very short rods. I don't need anything for focus at the front here or anything, mount support, blah, blah. All I really need is a little bit of length in the back here. Don't lose the tool. So I have two choices here for hooking up a V-mount, except I have gold mount batteries. We'll get into that in a second. This one, it just lays flat or sideways. This one, it's gonna go vertical. I like the ergonomics typically of vertical, so it's not sticking out side to side so far. It's just gonna go straight up and down. So I like those ergonomics a little bit better. Put this into the rods. Of course, the worry is I'm gonna be blocking my screen entirely, and the Z8 does not have a swivel screen. That being said, even if I put the battery laying down, probably the same issue. For power, like I said, we have a couple of options. They're all gonna be V-mount. My very first time rigging up a camera though, this is what I bought. It's a V-mount to Sony NPF adapter, so you can throw two of those on, and then throw this on. Batteries in, and then you can see with this battery indicator that it works. Really inexpensive option. These are third-party Sony NPFs, and this one as well, I think is from Andor or something like that. I saw that Newer does one as well now. Since I have the gold mounts, I'm just going to use the gold mounts, and for that I have a Shape V-mount to gold mount adapter. So you can use the inverter itself to power your camera or monitor or accessories, and then you have the gold mount battery itself as well. For gold mount batteries, I just have this 150 kilowatt hour from Core and this 98 Slim. I do find that the Slim, there's some power draw with just the LCD screen that if I just leave it sitting, it actually drains fairly quickly. This one lasts a lot longer when it's just idling. And really the main reasons for rigging this is for stability. Typically when I'm shooting handheld, I actually prefer having IBIS off and then just adding a lot more camera weight. So that's the first purpose of rigging this up, is to just add a little bit more camera weight. Second reason would be power. So the Nikon Z8 battery life, pretty abysmal. So using gold mount batteries or just something a little bit beefier, that's nice to have. And the third one is monitoring. So I'll probably use this shorter Nato rail from SmallRig. That's what I really like about these parts. I've made a couple of rig building videos on the channel, and I just essentially reuse the same parts for multiple different cameras. Speaking of which, I've been using this top handle forever now. Don't really see or feel a reason to change it. Wrong orientation. Nice thing about this handle, very simple, but there's a cold shoe mount here and then a cold shoe mount here, and you can also switch the orientation. So right now I think I have it set up like this so that the monitor mount, and I'm using this one, can go slot in front, and then you can just look at the monitor here. Problem with that is the limited range in terms of how far you can tilt the monitor back. I'm just going to switch the orientation real quick, and again, that's a nice thing about this top handle. Also that it comes with a magnetic thing. I would have lost this at least 100 times by now if it wasn't for that holder feature thing. In terms of placement, I like holding my top handle like this, so index finger around front. So in terms of positioning, probably like this. Screw that in. And now this, also SmallRig, I think. Pretty much everything is. That is hideous. It's very tall. Let's get this monitor on. And again, I like this monitor mount from SmallRig just because it's very simple. Screw this right into the monitor. You just turn this thing And then like the bottom, there's holes where you can just stick an Allen key through like so and tighten. You can tighten these on the ends, either side, to choose how loose you want it. I've been liking this monitor mount. It is really tall, so that's kind of the one drawback. This is the 7-inch monitor. I sold my 5-inch because I wasn't using it that much, but honestly for a rig like this, a 5-inch would make more sense. The reason I'm not using the 5-inch as much as I used to is because my eyesight is trash and I was missing focus. 7-inch I noticed helped quite a bit. So now all we need to do is hook things up. Okay, well I ran out of space on the Blackmagic app, but I guess this view is actually better because it's wide, but you're gonna see all this mess, for which I apologize. Battery door, to remove it on the Z8. Basically you want it at 45 degree, 60 degree angle, and then you pretty much just, how the fuck did I do it? Yeah, you just pull. So you just got to get at the right angle and then it should come out fairly effortlessly. Definitely don't yank it or else I feel like this plastic bit, you're going to break it. People have commented online that they're not sure of the durability of this piece. If you're putting it in and out every single day, might not be the way to go. So I suppose there's other ways, because there is a PD USB port on the Z8. Maybe there's an adapter out there that works with the PD cable and then straight into your power source. For now, I just got this third-party, I think it's Newer as well actually, let me check. Yeah, Newer dummy battery. Tested this out last time and it worked without any issue. Comes with this nice coiled cable and it's not too long, which I like. I'm gonna try it like that. And boom, it works. So now I have a ton more power, which is great. Next thing to hook up, HDMI. So for HDMI, I forgot what brand this is. Very short HDMI cable. I like it for these types of handheld rigs. There is an HDMI clamp somewhere in my Nikon Z8 box. I'm not using it right now, but that's something I would consider. Not sure if it's included in all Z8s because I bought mine used, but mine came with this HDMI clamp. It comes in two parts. Essentially this holds the cable and then it slots right into this clamp here, like so. And then it has this screw that attaches to the camera. So if you open up all the port doors, then you'll see this tiny screw there. That lines up with this screw. So line it up, and you have yourself a little clamp. Then you can pop this piece out. I'm going to put my HDMI cable through it. Put my HDMI cable in. Now I'm going to put it back. So, not my favorite one. I remember there was a clamp that came with the Blackmagic Cage, I believe. Much better design. Actually felt like it was holding it in place. Speaking of which, this HDMI cable, this short one, it is faulty. It was losing connection over and over and over. So let's fire up the monitor, which I put on upside down. Look at me. And now this brings me to the second kind of problem I have with the Z8, or something I'm trying to solve with rigging it up. And that's the view assist. So let's fire up this first. Is when you use view assist on the camera, it tends to overexpose. Just want to quickly illustrate what I mean by view assist overexposing. So on the camera, this is what I see. It's very different from what I see on the monitor. But if you don't use view assist, you're kind of just stuck with the log image preview. So one way to work around that was I created this display LUT and I actually made it so that it drops the exposure down a little bit. It's a more accurate depiction of what my final frame is actually going to look like. With the Z8, there's two options. You can have a completely clean output like this, which is great through HDMI. So HDMI, and then you can do output shooting info on. See what that looks like. So you can see all your settings here. You can see your autofocus box as well. Obviously this is a manual focus lens, so a little bit different. Cluttered view here, but it might be helpful because again, you don't really have easy access to the actual camera. But I'm gonna keep it clean. I'm gonna do that. Everything else is auto. And another reason why I just had to put in my own LUTs here. Hard to see, but on the actual camera screen itself, the view assist is working, but it doesn't go through the HDMI. It just shows the log picture. So that's another reason why I loaded up my own LUTs. I just created my own, again, to drop that exposure a little bit, get a more accurate depiction of what I'm looking at. And here's the rig. very ugly. Recently I did a paid gig, got to use the rig for the first time. I made some tweaks before we actually went into shooting, so I wanted to show that here. First thing I noticed is it was actually nice to be able to see this screen. So propping it up like so was great. Final orientation of the handle, I had the screw facing outwards so it didn't impede my fingers when I grabbed the handle. Although, I mean, most of the shoot was on sticks, didn't really matter. Speaking of which, because it was on sticks, I ditched this monitor mount and actually ended up getting this friction arm. So much longer than the one that I'm using here. I use this arm to attach my monitor to the front of this top handle here. It just gave me a little bit more room to play with, or a lot more angles that I could use. If it's handheld though, this is the setup I much prefer. But to illustrate the kind of that limited range of motion, this is as far back as you can tilt. So if you're doing a high angle shot, you're not really going to be able to see anything. Because I have my quick release plate, I'm able to attach the body of the Nikon away from this battery and the rods. So because of that, I just added a strap, and actually I like shooting with the strap and the rig at the same time. Just offers another way to stabilize the camera if I want a particular shot. Alright, I ditched the NPF batteries and I just used the dummy, and then kept the same dummy battery, newer, from the Nikon to power. But yeah, other than that, I think it's pretty much the same. Still gonna do a lot more testing of this rig in general, but pretty happy with it. Oh yeah, I guess also I can show you a little bit of what it looks like when I'm handling it. So right now it's actually resting on my stomach and I just have the neck strap. Keeps all the weight on my neck though, so I don't really love it for long-term use. But yeah, this is probably how I would rock it in terms of handheld. One way that I would do that. Other way would be to use the top handle like this, most of the way here, or I can adjust the battery into kind of my hip area, get a little bit more stability that way, and still have the neck strap on. Yeah, really comfortable. And I take off the neck strap, then I can get a little bit lower, again just bracing it against my body,